Thank you so much for joining me for this class, and I'm very excited to share the process of this painting with you. So the first thing I did was to wet some sections of the sky area. I really enjoy having soft transitions, especially for sky. And then I added my lightest color, which was raw sienna here. And while everything was still wet, I added some Prussian blue by M. Graham, which is the best Prussian blue. It's more vibrant comparing to the other brands. So, and I let it fuse, and my board is at an angle, so all the colors just naturally flew down the paper. And while everything was still damped, I added a first layer for the mountain area in the background because I just wanted to connect the sky to the background of the mountain. So this is not the finished look of the mountains. It's just something underneath to give me something to glaze over later. And I'm also connecting the water to the mountains, and I'm using the same colors as I use for the sky, same blue, but I'm making it darker as it goes towards the foreground, so towards us I made it darker. I really enjoy using this big Hake brush, especially for smaller paintings and also for bigger paintings as well, but it just gives me some interesting marks and some abstract shapes that are so random and irregular that it's going to be very hard to achieve using a smaller brush. So while still everything's still damped, I'm using Sap Green by Daniel Smith, and basically I'm dry brushing this field to come towards foreground. So basically I want more textures and more these dry brush effects to bring this area forward to help to create a sense of depth in the painting. And I'm also strengthening the paint, so I'm using more paint, and I think I added some Jedi Genuine by Daniel Smith as I'm coming towards foreground to make it darker. It's a very beautiful color, but I don't use it all the time as it doesn't harmonize with all the rest of the colors that I have. So it's not one of the greens that I use all the time, but for this painting I think it works really good. And while everything is still damped, I'm adding another layer. So this technique is called charging. So I'm adding a thicker layer of paint on top of the paint underneath. But be very careful, practice this technique, because the next layer that you put it on, so for charging, it has to be very thick. So you should spray your paint beforehand, so you make sure it's juicy and runny, or use fresh paint out of tube just to make sure that you can get the thick paint and it's not too much water on your brush. And now I'm using my razor to scrape out some sparkles for the water, and my touch was very gentle, so you don't want to really tear up the paper, but just really lightly some sparkles. And I think this looks a lot better than having to do dry brush, in my opinion. And now the background area is completely dry, and I'm glazing some marks on top of it, and I'm also varying the colors that I'm using to just get more interesting effects, because my focal point is going to be trees on the left that I'm going to be painting later. So I just want to have more interesting shapes and colors around my focal area to kind of draw attention more towards that area. But I want this glazing layer on top of the mountain to be very light, so I basically want the layer underneath to show through the transparent layer that I'm going to put on top of it. So make sure it's very light to also look in that they're really far away in the background as well. And also, like I said, to show the layer underneath, to just add some more character to the painting. And for the trees on the right here, I used my rigger brush and I tried to make some expressive marks. And then while everything was wet, I added some darks for the shadow areas. And then I wetted the ground around it for the shadow area, but I left some sections dry as well. So I wanted a mixture of soft and hard edges for the shadows. And then I added some really pure dark red to the shadow areas of the trees. It's a really good idea to add some warmth to your shadows and make them look more pleasant and just richer overall. So now I'm painting the sheep, and I wetted the sections that I want the paint to go. This allows me to have a softer transition comparing to just put the paint on wet on dry paper. And the color I'm using here is the same color that I used first for the mountain, background mountain, the one in the middle. So it's Moonglow. It's one of my favorite colors besides Lunar Blue. It's very useful, especially for shadows, and it just gives you some beautiful granulation as well. I didn't want to put too much details and emphasize on the sheeps because that's not my focal point. So I just did the necessary marks and I left them alone. And now I'm painting my focal point, which are those trees on the water. And I wetted the areas that I wanted to paint to go. And I also tried to make some interesting marks, like the shape of the tree. I tried to make it look more beautiful. And this is going to be to your taste, something that looks beautiful to me. It may not look the same to you, so but always try to aim for just some interesting marks and more beautiful, not really regular, just circle or just triangle or any kind of regular simple shape. Try to make it look more beautiful and pleasing to look at. And I use the same greens that I used for the rest of the painting. First the lighter green, and then I used the charging technique to add the shadow areas of the trees. And now I'm adding some pure, very thick yellow, which is a more opaque yellow. So as you can see, it really shows through those dark greens. So basically, this is going to add some highlights to my trees and just going to give me some nice transitions of granulations as well. And I use my rigger brush for the tree trunks to make some interesting marks as well. So now I'm finishing off the foreground area, just adding some touch of wet on dry for details and just some more texture. And now I'm just wetting the sections, the foreground section, to just splatter some paint to just add some more texture to just bring this area more forward. So I want the splatters to fuse in the foreground, so that's why I wetted the paper, but I decided that it wasn't wet enough. So now I'm spraying using my misting spray to just make them fuse a little bit more. And the tree area is still wet, so I added a touch of water to just give it some more texture and more kind of a bloom effect. So I really hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial, and don't forget to ask me any questions that you have, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy painting!